And backwards, neck and shoulders relaxed. Hips in. And again, forwards. Head to your left knee. And your right knee. And again, forwards. Guys, just keep stretching. I just need to go change my computer to gallery view just so I can see where Sensei's changed it in. And backwards, neck and shoulders relaxed. Hips in. And stretch back to the left corner. And to the right corner. And round. Reverse. And leg sit on the left side. Right leg out. Change. Again, change. And stretch. And change. And stretch. Senkos. Go longer, heel up at the back. Instep. And back to your front stance. Change. 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 And back to your stance. Shigarachi. Kibarachi. And as usual, straighten the legs or slowly spread. And sit back. Keep legs wide. Stretch forwards. Head to your left knee. And to your right knee. And if you can, push a little bit wider. Again, stretch. Very good. And feet together. Legs straight, toes back. Fingertips to your toes. Left leg inside, chest to your knee. Change. Left leg over, right arm through and twist. And change. And leg straight again, if you can, catch. And pull, if not, fingertips. Very good. Feet back. Hands back, knees to the floor. Yeah, again, catch. And stretch. Stand. And turn your knees. Reverse. Bend. Straight. Bend. And straight. Hips. Reverse. Head. Side, side. Twist. Ayame. Good to go. Bow. Oi. So guys, step forward with your left leg into back stance and block Shuto. So remember, the arms will come up, the left hand will come to the neck, right arm will ground straight. So you pivot with the hip to send a weight over the back leg, stepping forward and blocking Shito. Okay. So combination by 3 counts. Yesterday we looked at turning with front stance and which part of the foot you could use for that. Today we're going to do the same thing with back stance. So on the first count, all you're going to do is step forward and block. Second count, step backwards and block. Knee. And the third count, turn moite and back stance. San. Yeah, and that's the combination, guys. Yeah, so it's a step forwards, a step backwards, and then turn. So now we've got our right leg forward, and you can keep facing the back of the dojo if you wish, or turn to face the front. Entirely up to you, but you've got your right leg forward, and you can step forward and block. Shito. And then step backwards and block. Knee. And then turn moite. San. Okay, very good. So start looking at a little bit of detail of the step in back stance before we move on to the turn. So as with the vast majority of our blocks, remember, as soon as that back leg starts to go, the arms go with that feeling of that back leg, and particularly the back arm being connected. So not this, where the leg goes and then the arms catch up, like we said to a few of you on a Thursday, I think it was, in the kata class. Make sure it's not something like this, where the arms come out and then block, direct, and block out. Okay, good. And then, of course, it's the same going back. As soon as you start to step, the arms go and block. Knee. And then even when we come to turn, and like I said, we're going to look at the detail of the turn shortly, because we've actually got a couple of ways we can do it with back stance. Arms, instant and direct. So not out, not a delay, direct, and block. San. Okay, good. And guys, just where you are now, check your back foot and make sure it is on a straight 90-degree angle. So I don't want it, for instance, doing something like this. You see where it's turned out? Or something like this, where it's turned forward. In line with the knee, in line with the hip, 90-degree angle to my front leg. Forwards, backwards, arms direct, knee, turning, san. Okay, good. So now, we've talked about the arms and the timing of the leg. Also think about the weight. So back stance, the weight has to be over the back leg. So what we often see is stuff like this, particularly when we go fast. People step forward quick and the weight ends up in the middle. The shape of the legs may be correct, but the weight ends up in the middle. So remember, when you step forward with back stance, as soon as your body gets to this sort of halfway position, this is where the body stays. And then we rely on the powerful pivot of the hip to send the leg out so the weight stays over the back legs, and not this, where you fall forward. It gets to that halfway point, and then you send the leg out, keeping the weight back. Knee. And then, of course, when we pivot, and we've actually done this moite many, many times, where we've done Kian Nidan It's exactly the same thing with the feet. Exactly the same thing we're doing with the feet, except now with the Stow. And of course, we have to make sure the weight transfers from the one leg to the other. So it's not just feet pivoting and the weight sitting in the middle. From one leg to the other. 7. Okay, so arms direct, arms instant, weight over the right leg. Hitch, backwards, knee, and turning. 7. Okay, very good. And one final extra point before we start talking about what you do with your feet on the turn. Make sure your hips are in the correct alignment. So the front hip is in line with the front knee, in line with the front foot. The back hip is in line with the back knee, in line with the back foot. So particularly, again, when we go fast, I don't want to see stuff like this. You see where my bum's sticking out? Pull it back. Pull it back. So you want to keep, again, just like we always say, sort of the feeling of the bottom half of the body is going down. So my belt is parallel to the floor. So it's not kicking up. It's not kicking out. Straight. Stepping forward and blocking Stow. Hitch. Backwards, knee. Okay, so when we talk about pivoting in back stance, though of course we are going to use our feet, the main pivot comes from the hip. So it's the powerful hip that sends the weight back. So I don't want you to think about the feet so much at this stage. I just want you to think about pulling the hip, which brings the weight back and the feet into the correct place. So it's the hip, hip, hip that pivots you around. 7. And then check your feet and check your weight and make sure it's all correct. So we're gonna have plenty of time between each count, guys. So make sure you're checking. Back stance is a notoriously difficult stance within Shotokan. Yeah, very, very difficult to do correctly. So do be checking. Forwards, hitch. Backwards, knee. Pivot, 7. Yeah, good. Yeah, so this is another one of those steps, guys. Again, similar to what we were saying in backside eye the other day. I don't want you to think about stepping. So back stance, your feet are on the same line, so you shouldn't really have to step. It's just the pivot, pivoting, 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 okay? One more time by this count. Forwards, hitch, backwards, knee. Okay, so now this is where it's gonna get a little bit tricky, okay? So, again, I'm sure there's plenty of other variations. I'm sure Sensei Haku knows a lot more than me. We're gonna look at 2 different ways of turning in back stance, which you can do in your basics or in your kata. So the first one, as I prepare, I don't change my feet, and then I use the pivot to pull, which is what we've just done, yeah? So as I prepare, I'm sort of twisting my upper body around. Again, sort of get this feeling of torque, like exactly like in backside eye, where my feet stay, and then the pivot comes at the end. My feet stay, and then the pivot comes at the end. And that's absolutely fine. That's very sharp. Another way you can do it is as I prepare, I actually rotate on the heel. I bring that foot in, and then it's much more of the upper body doing the work. Yeah, guys, so it's this feeling of squeezing in and then pushing back, squeezing and pushing back. So the first one is all about the pivot of the hips. The second one is more to do with the push of the upper body. Yeah, then you see sort of this is talking about Naka Sensei again, he does this. So as he prepares in Hyanida, he has this, and then he sort of has this feeling of pushing through this back here as he lifts. So it generates a lot more power for the arm technique because you push it and get sort of that leg drive. It's this feeling without coming out of the stance. So this one is much more about pulling back. This one is almost about pushing forward with the arms. Guys, this is like I say, it's tricky stuff, but you've all been training a lot. Black belts, Vic, for sure. Try and have a go at both of them. Like I say, both are correct. And maybe just during the course of these combinations, try both out and see which one you prefer. Yeah, but do try them both. So pivoting, san. Okay. Forwards, ich. Backwards, ni. So then it's either sort of getting that feeling of generating torque in the body and pulling, or squeezing and then pushing back. San. Okay, good. And then we're going to do that combination by one count. So it's forwards, backwards, pivot. So one count is 3. Forwards, correct arms, correct weight distribution, correct shape in the feet. Backwards, the same thing. And then with the pivot. Lightly. Ich. Ni. San. Shi. And back stance, guys, particularly forward seems to be good with everyone. Backwards, some of you, there seems to be a little bit of an out with the leg. It's not as much as this, I'm just exaggerating to show, but some of you seem to be bringing this leg out. Still straight back. Straight back. Yeah, so it's direct. So your feet, because Kokutsudachi is a very narrow stance, heels on line, you should just be able to go straight forward and straight backwards, not this feeling of outside. Go. That was better, Rob. Yeah, that was direct. Rook. So again, though we've not mentioned it, quite important that we don't have that at the start of the step. Not that, so you're trying to keep that still. Keep that still. Then like I said, remember, it's the pivot of the hip that sends the leg out and the back leg into shape. So when you step in back stance, and we're talking about the pivoting of the foot, you know, Sensei Haku always used to catch us out because he'd say, do you turn on the ball of the foot, do you turn on the heel? And we'd say ball of the foot or the heel, and they'd say, no, we're wrong. Then we do 50 press ups, and then he'd say it's the hip. Yeah, it's the hip, it's the hip, it's the hip that sent it out. Yeah. It's only when we come to turn that we start thinking more about the heel and the ball of the foot. Ich. Ni. Yeah. So again, like, been talking a lot about heel or ball of foot as we did yesterday, or with Sensei Haku just before. If you do the one where you use the hip more, and you sort of get that feeling of torque, it's really the ball of the foot that you go on. Yeah, guys, like I said, because you're sending the weight back, you're using the ball of the foot to send the weight back. But if you do the one where you sort of prepare first, so you're squeezing in, you're bringing it forward. So this way is actually done using the heel, and then you come back. So one way, ball of the foot, other way, heel. Yeah. A few more lights, then we go fast. Ich. Ni. Yeah, good guys. Nice. San. Yeah, that's sharp. Shi. Yeah, so guys, even though we're not going fast yet, where you are doing everything sort of crisply and there's no additional movement and you're getting a nice pivot, it looks very, very sharp already. Yeah, so once you get the technique down, and like I say, you eliminate all of that unnecessary movements and you start using the hips properly with these blocks and these steps, then it very, very quickly becomes a lot better. Yeah, as soon as you start doing stuff like this, or that foot's turning out so you can't use the hip properly, it can look quite dull. But when everything's nice and crisp and clean, even when it's only light, it's very, very sharp. But now, to add even more sharpness, we're going to add speed. So don't lose any of the technique. Yeah, we've just got to work that much harder now to keep the good technique going fast. So remember, as you push, arms go instant and a sharp pivot. Then the same with the back step, Then whichever one you choose to do, arms are instant and you make sure the weight transfers. So the same counts, but very, very fast. Edge. Nice. Knee. Sen. Yeah. It's like we were sort of, with the back stance, guys, it's nice doing this in my bedroom because I actually have a chair to demonstrate on. You really are feeling like you're sitting back. Yeah. So I'm sat on the chair. It is that same feeling. So my hip is in line with my knee and my foot. And then my front foot is going forward. So it is this feeling. Yeah. So when you're doing back stance, and we're doing it a lot, this quad should be burning. Yeah. So that's the feeling you want to have. You want to make sure this weight is fully back. Just like the Zen cuts, the weight is fully forward. Keep it actually, the weight is dead center. We don't want a back stance with the weight in the middle. Make sure it is back. Go. Yeah. Remember, no up and down at all in that pivot. Not up and down. Not up and down. Across, across, across. Hook. Chips. Hatch. Okay, last two. If you can use Kiai. Go. Kiai. Go. Yame. Honore. And relax. Very good, guys. So, though it's a simple combination, lots and lots and lots of points to think about, and particularly when we turn with back stance, because it does come up so much in kata. It's really important that we know how to do it right. Okay, so what we're going to do now is look at turning with back stance in the kata. We're going to do the last 4 moves of Hyan Shodan. So Hyan Shodan, it finishes with just under second Kiai, which is Gyoizuki. Then we turn into back stance, then to the corner, turning back stance, and then to the corner. Okay, guys, so do it as you would in the kata, just so I can see the back stance easier. So you're gonna have your right leg going to the back of the dojo. Yeah, just so I can see the back stance itself when you turn. And you're gonna do this, each of the shito by 1 count. We're going to do it light, and then just as we did with basic, we'll add more detail as we go along. So just do the movements to start off with. Turn and block, shuto, itch. And then remember, you're gonna go 45-degree angle. Knee. Then you're gonna bring the right arm of the right leg back and block out. San. And then to the corner. Shi. And then go back to the punch. So we're gonna start by looking at the more general points with the shito as we looked at in the basics. So remember, as soon as you start this turn, the arms are going direct. So the hand that's on your hip is going to come immediately to your neck. The right arm is going to go direct in the direction you're stepping. And then they're going to come straight back. So remember, there's no delay. And then they catch up at the end. There's no big unnecessary movement out and then swinging around. Direct and out. Itch. And then again, direct. So remember, the arms go straight in the direction they're stepping. So for instance, they don't prepare and then swing round. Direct. Squeezing out. Knee. Yeah, nice. This one in particular, this third step, is actually very, very difficult. Lots of people struggle with this one. You bring the right arm and the right leg back. We'll talk more detail in this. But remember, the right leg has to come in and then back out. So for instance, the right leg doesn't swing around. It doesn't swing around in a big curve. It comes in and out. San. Yes. Then remember, arms direct to the corner. Shi. And back to the punch. Okay. So this first one, though we had a couple of options when we were doing Muay, I would say for this turn, you would almost certainly go on the heel. I think it'd be quite awkward because obviously when you're turning on the ball of the foot, all of your weight essentially goes onto the ball of the foot. I think it could be quite awkward and might lead to a bit of a rise, a bit of a collapse and losing your stance if you were to go on the ball of the foot. But if you were to come on the heel, again, the heel is a circle. It's the most easy part of the foot to spin on. Yeah. So bear that in mind when you do any of these turns. And it also helps to get this feeling of squeezing in. Again, we've got a couple of ways to do these turns. So you see some, and it's the same with Keon Kata and that when we turn in Guillain-Barré, some just send the one side straight in. Some send the one side straight in, which is very, very fast. Or we have the option where we squeeze everything in. So I'm almost coming showman on the preparation and then blocking out. But both ways, I would say, use the heel. The first way is obviously quicker. The second way is stronger. Again, entirely up to you which one you do, but make sure you try and go on the heel, whichever one you do. Itch. Good. Good, good, good. Yeah, and never feel like your back stance has to be particularly long. Sort of, you see lots of these sorts of pictures where people are in this really nice looking back stance, but my weight is very much in the middle. Kokutsudachi in Japanese means standing with your weight on one leg, on your back leg. Yeah. So we were sort of talking about this, I think, a few weeks ago in terms of sort of translation from Japanese to English, and where a sort of translation was lost. But Kokutsudachi isn't a passive thing. It's active. It's standing with your weight on one leg. So it's not the stance. Kokutsudachi is not the shape. It's a verb. You are standing with your weight on the back leg. Yeah. So as long as the weight is right over this back leg, this is Kokutsudachi. This is Kokutsudachi. This is Kokutsudachi. This is Kokutsudachi. As long as the weight is over the back leg, it's fine. Yeah, guys. Don't feel like you ever have to be overly long in your stance. So when you come to this one now, think about which part of the foot you turn on. It could be that you leave that foot still, and then it just has sort of a slight, maybe a slight tweak, just to make the correct shape. Or it could be that if you wish to do the stow where you bring everything in, it could be that you actually bring that foot in. So this is the turn we were talking about where you actually set that foot first and then use the upper body. It's that same feeling where you set that foot first, so everything comes in and then blocks out again. The first way is quicker. The second way is stronger. Knee. And then this third step. So you want to have a feeling of pulling the left hip back, pulling the right hip back. So again, if you wish to do the way we just send the one hip in, that's absolutely fine. Perhaps going to ball of the foot, or if you wish to do the way where you're squeezing in, again, you bring the heel in and then out. So it's almost like you have a double pivot. You're pivoting and then you're pushing out. Sun. And then, of course, this one is the same as it is on the opposite side. So you could bring it in or leave it and then do a small movement on the out. Chi. And yame. And shake it off. So like I say, guys, this is, in theory, this is basic stuff. But as Sensei Apple said, was it Thursday or the week before? There's no such thing as basic karate. Yeah, guys. Shokuzuki, we've spent hours doing Shokuzuki. I wouldn't call it a basic technique if you're using your hips, your legs, your chest, your shoulder, your lats correctly. Okay. And we do it one more time to count. And then we start doing it by no counts. Okay, guys. So a few more of those general points. Remember, make sure these arms stretch. Make sure you're staying low, make sure they go immediately. First toe. Itch. Try that one again. So what I just saw from someone there was, you know, we talk about it quite often when we do knee down and yon down, this feeling of sort of the weight going forward and then back. Remember, the weight is already where it needs to be. The weight is already on the right leg. So you shouldn't have to come up, but it shouldn't go out. The weight is where it needs to be. So try and keep it there. Yeah, guys, the weight is already on the right leg. Itch. To the corner. Knee. Sun. Guys, remember with the Stoll, remember the arm that goes out straight, it's palm to the floor, and then it twists up at the end. So it's not this. Twist. Twist. Same way you do Hikite with a punch. It starts palm down, it finishes palm up. Starts palm down, finishes palm up. Chi. And back to the punch. So guys, I want you to do the 4. I want you to do them lightly again. And just how you were developing the sharpness in the basic, I want you now to try and do that with the kata. So if everything is clean and correct, you're staying low. When you're whipping the arms out, it looks sharp even when you're going light. So try and develop that. Because if you can do that light, then when we come to do it fast, it becomes that much easier. With Hyan Shodan, the timing of these 4 shito, again, you've got a couple of options. You can either do them as 4 separate techniques. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Or you can do it in a bit more of a 1, 2, 3, 4. Entirely up to do. If you do the second option, you've got to make sure number 1 and number 3 finish with Kime. Yeah? So no stop rushing it. Stop, stop. Stop, stop. Entirely up to you. The 4. Itch. And back to the punch. Knee. And back to the punch. Guys, remember, as soon as the leg goes, so feel like the left arm, the left leg are attached. They've got to move together. Together. And then out. Sun. Okay. And back. Chi. Yeah, good. Good, guys. And back. Go. And one more light. Rook. And relax, guys. Again, particularly with the third step, which, as I said, is a very difficult step. Be mindful of what you do with your left foot. So third movement starts with your right arm and your right leg going to the corner. If you were going to do the turn where you just send one side of the body in, it's important to make sure that left foot finishes facing what would be the front of the dojo, because like if you just send the one side in, that foot was probably going to stay still. So when you come to do the pivot, it could be like with someone I saw there, it ends up going on this 45-degree angle. So if you choose to use the one hip, you have to make sure that foot finishes frontways. If you choose to do the one where you use both sides of the body, like say you're sort of having that double pivot where that foot comes around and then it's easier to finish in the correct shape. Just watch out for that. And back to the punch, and now we go very, very fast. So like we said yesterday, guys, there's an awful lot of detail been given, and perhaps a new way of doing these steps. Even some of you have been training for a very long time. So like I say, be mindful of it. Yeah, guys, don't revert back to doing it the way you've done it hundreds and hundreds of times before. Try it. Try and improve. So very fast. Edge. Yeah, Marcus Bianca, very good. Really good. And back to the punch. Remember, the weight's over the right leg, it stays over the right leg. Knee! And back. Ten. Arms direct. Arms instant. Not up and down, not up and down. And back. Chin. 2 more, and back to the punch. Last 2 sets, guys. Best 2. Go! And back to the punch, last one. Ready, ready, ready. Go! Ayame. Honore. And relax. Very good, guys. Very good. So like I say, back stance obviously comes up an awful amount in our training. Those 4 steps turn up in kata all the way through your syllabus from 10th kyu to 3rd dan. Yeah, so it's important we have an understanding of how to do the steps, how to do them well, and how to improve them. Okay, guys, but that was excellent. Does anybody have any questions? Cool. Sensei. Oh, Rob, have you got a question? Go on. Yeah, just unmute yourself.
With that preparing arm,
yes.
I always thought it's a strike, as in the arm that goes out. Is that a strike, or is it a grab? Is it a pull?
It absolutely can be, Rob. Like you can, if you can make it fit, you can make a bunkai out of anything. So, like I say, that could very well easily be a strike, maybe you're blocking and you're striking, and then you're striking again. It could be using that as the block, and the strike, maybe that's being used as a pull if you can make it work. It could be anything. So never think, guys, never think that the block is a block. So obviously, very, very basic application. Someone's going to do a punch, you block. But it could be that this is the block. So the preparation arm, that's the block, and that's the strike. It could be this is the block, that's a strike, and that's a strike. It could be that this is a throw. Yeah. So you can make anything, out of these basic blocks. Okay, guys.
So I always thought of it as the arm goes forward and this comes up. I always thought that's a strike and then another strike, as in strike. So
absolutely. Particularly if you train with Terry O'Neill, he'll make a strike out of anything. Yeah, he will. If like you could do the same with Agiyuki, the preparation arm could be the strike, and then a pull into an armbar and an elbow. So Tuki, this could be a strike and then a grab and then strike into the elbow. It could be a strike and then coming around this way. Same with Yushi. This could be a block and then striking down. Same with the Ginambarai. So yeah, you can do. There's a tremendous amount we can do with all of our basic techniques. Even with the Chokazuki, we've talked about before. We've got an Urazuki, a Tatazuki, a Choka. So we've got 3 strikes in one punch straight away. All sorts of different things we can do with all of our techniques. Yeah.
Thank you.